Welcome to the Create the Life You Want podcast, where we break down the journey of people just like you going from dream to ownership in business acquisitions, franchises, and startups. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames. Today's episode is brought to you ad-free by Guidant Financial. Guidant is America's leading company helping aspiring entrepreneurs use retirement funds to buy or start businesses. If you're committed to buying or starting a business, you can find out more about your funding options by going to www.guidantfinancial.com. That's Guidant financial.com. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Create the Life You Want podcast. Today, I am joined by Georgina Sussewell, who worked in the financial services firm for almost 35 years, working with companies and people and their pensions, and then decided she wanted to own her own clothing store. But we're going to get into a little bit of where the inspiration for that came from and why she decided on a franchise as the path that she went down. So Georgina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Glad to have you. Georgina, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'd love for you to just give a little bit about your background. What was your life before you became a business owner? What were you doing and why?
I actually worked for a financial services firm. I'm not going to say the name, but they are the largest pension provider, private pension provider in the nation, and the third largest insurance company. And they work with 501c3 organizations such as, colleges, universities, even the NASA scientists. And hospitals, that 501c3 avenue where nurses and doctors and professors would have an avenue where they could save money monthly for their retirement. So they invested that money with my company and we invested for them. So I oversee financial planners. I am a registered rep as well as a registered principal. So I would oversee their conversations to just make sure that what it is that they're recommending to customers is appropriate, suitable, and meets, regulatory guidelines. So I did that for 35 years.
That is a long time to commit to
Yes.
one career, and so far removed from a clothing franchise. So why don't you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the backstory of inspiration for you? How long did you know that you wanted to be a business owner, and what was it that finally pushed you over the edge?
Yeah. Um, I knew that I wanted to own my own business from a very young age. My mom was a seamstress. She owned her own business. I was born and grew up in the island of Jamaica. And my mom was one of the most well sought after seamstress to make. She'd made wedding dresses, bridesmaids dresses, regular dresses. Back in the day, people wouldn't go to a boutique to buy their dresses. They would seek a seamstress and say, hey, I have an event. And they would get the material and would go to the seamstress, your measurement. And by Friday, they come in on Monday. And by Friday, they have this really nice, unique dress. So from a very young age, I was exposed to dressmaking and clothes and fashion. So that's always been in my, DNA from a very young age.
Got it. So inspired by your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And but yet you worked in this financial services role for 34 years. So
Yes.
what was it that finally got you to the point where you said, now's the time?
Well, what got me to the point is, when I had just turned 50. And when you turn 50, that's when you started thinking, that's close to 65, right? You don't really have these thoughts when you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s. So at 50, I know within 10 years I'm going to be 60, and next thing you know, I'm going to be retired. So I have two daughters, and one of my obligation was to see my girls through college. My older daughter had graduated from college. My younger daughter had just started college and would be finishing college in like the next 2 or 3 years. So I myself was working in financial services at the time, and like I said, 35 years. And I loved it. I love everything that's about, but I was becoming tired and complacent. I felt like conversations that I was having, meetings that I was having, it was like the exact same thing over and over. And so I was just somewhat a little distracted there. But then COVID happened, and I started working from home. And when you work from home, you work alone. And that's when everything, my brains just started to go. And I was just thinking, this is miserable, just sitting at home and having meetings on the phone. I need face to face interaction. I wasn't able to get dressed up. I wasn't able to, put myself together. And that is when I started doing some research. I said, you know what, if I've always wanted to own my own business. I love the clothing industry. Everyone that knows me knows that they call me a fashionista. Like wherever I go, I'm just always from head to toe. I could be going to the supermarket. Got my makeup on and everything. So, and some clothes. So I just started doing the research at that point in time, which in terms of what it is that I wanted to do, how I was going to do it, and as well as what steps I needed to take to fulfill that.
Got it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And by the way, I buy the fashionista argument because you're going to win the award for best earrings brought to a podcast interview. Well done. Why don't you tell us a little bit? I mean, you're a registered rep, so you've gone through a lot of training and a lot of schooling to do what you did, and you're
Mhm.
somebody who has risk forefront on your mind. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how did you think about the various risks that you were going to take on and how you would mitigate those?
Yeah, well, it was like I said, COVID had happened, and it was a very risky times. People weren't opening businesses; people were closing, right? Because so much has happened. What really uh, gave me some level of satisfaction is um, you know, understanding what industry I wanted to get in and, be completely okay with that. Secondly, funding. Do I need a loan? What is it that I need? So there are different things that I looked at in terms of, you know, am I creating a situation or will I create a situation that's going to um, be a financial burden on me as well as my family? If I should leave a paying job to start a company that it's a non-paying job. You're now selling services and items and clothing, and will people buy from you? And the location, and there's so many different moving parts to it. But a big part of what gave me comfort was how I was going to fund it. Where was I getting the funds from? And the obligations that I'm taking on, or the risks that I'm taking on in terms of paying back loans or anything like that. So I decided to use, my personal savings to advance my dreams. At 50, I still had a lot in me, in terms of work ethics and in terms of dedication and determination. So I felt that it was a time that I could take a risk on myself. And that's how I looked at it. I was taking a risk on myself. So because I know me and what I'm capable of doing, it was a little bit easier for me to um, just proceed forward.
Yeah, so clearly you had a passion for the industry
Hmm.
and you had some experience with seeing the entrepreneur life from your mother.
Hmm.
I'm curious though, as a registered financial rep, walk us through how you thought about the right way for you to get the funding for this and how to think about some of the things that I think people worry about, how to go without getting any compensation coming in for a period of time. Like, how did you manage how all this was going to work in your financial spreadsheet and was going to come together?
Yeah, that's exactly that, right? So when I looked at opening the business, you do have to have a business plan. You do have to have estimations in terms of what your build out cost is going to be, what's your inventory, what salary is going to look like, and just a series of things. Call it my spreadsheet, my financial spreadsheet. And you lay that out and to see what it is it's going to take for you to stand up your business, to open door on day one. And then the second piece of it is operations, how you're going to be operating thereafter, and how much money do you need to have on hand to do so. So I did that from the beginning before I, went into it. So I had a very good estimation in terms of what the cost would be, the layout cost as well the operations cost, going forward, and what I needed to, um, my sales needed to be each month in order to continue to, um, have the operations piece of it work.
Yeah. Well, let's back up for a second then, because I think it sounds like a lot of this financial analysis you did once you had identified a model that you thought would work. So why don't you walk us through? You knew you wanted to be in the clothing industry. What
Hmm.
did you do with that? How did you figure out what was out there and what was going to be the right fit for you?
Um, Research, call different companies, try to, I
Tell us
don't know if
about
you,
that. Who did you call? Like what was the process that
yeah,
you went through to find the
yeah,
right opportunity for you?
yeah. So I did look at, non-franchise, meaning just opening the business on my own and what it would cost.
Startup.
I ended up going with a franchise because usually with franchise, there is a business model that they've adopted and really kind of help to mitigate the risk. So it's less risk because they have like a proven method in terms of what they suggest in terms of, hey, if you follow this formula, it has worked for um, folks in the past, which is financial services 101, right? You're investing in stocks, right? The SEC said, well, you have to let the investor know, hey, what has this stock done in the past, right? Past performance is not indicative of the future, but it's a good gauge to use. So, aligning that and going with a franchise was, to me, mitigating some of my risks by finding a way to address my needs, which is wanting a women's clothing and accessories boutique, so I can continue to dress women like I dress myself, as well as not having the headache of, trying to determine and figure out what's the best way, to buy merchandise. How much merchandise do I need to have in handbags versus earrings versus dresses versus tops versus pants or jeans? There's a whole formula to that in terms of what the franchise suggests and what has worked for other boutiques in the past. So following those simple but very uh, intentional and accurate guidance that they're giving really does help a lot. In addition to that, they provide a lot of market research in terms of, what's the color palette for, Pantheon's sign? What's in for this summer? What are people going to be buying? Are they buying straw hats versus they're buying, crochet blouses? All of that research is, has been done for you, and they do provide you with a good amount of data for you to manage your business, moving forward. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, actually, I'm hearing three things from you that really drew you to the franchise model. So, one was you had a proven model, meaning you didn't have to figure out how to manage inventory, which you presumably had never done before, or
Right.
how to order in, from the
Yeah.
different vendors. Like that was already sort of plug and play that we're going to train you on. The second thing I
Yes.
heard is, in clothing, it's so dependent on trends. And so you
Yes.
like the idea that there was this larger network that was focused on giving you some insight that was going to help you, and you weren't going to be managing that just by yourself. And then
Correct.
the third thing I heard is with a franchise, you're getting data that you now can base your financial assumptions on that say, here's about how much it costs to build out, here's what we see from other things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? When you were looking at that data,
Mhm.
did you just review what was in the franchise disclosure document, or did you also end up calling some of the franchisees to gather other information that
Yes.
you were evaluating?
Yes. So, and they do recommend that, which I appreciate. I even spoke to people who had other franchises that, not people. There's one other person I know that owns a franchise, a women's clothing boutique, and it was with a different vendor. And I spoke with her, to, get a feel as to what went well and, what didn't go so well. And talking with Apricot Lane, a lot of the things that didn't go so well with the other franchisee that I spoke, the non-Apricot Lane franchisee, would have been valuable information that she could have used to better manage her business. Um, she went out of business, but their franchise structure is completely different from Apricot Lane, meaning Apricot Lane, my boutique is individually owned and operated by me, while I do get a lot of analytics and guidance from Apricot Lane Corporate. The other franchises, those franchises are managed from a corporate level. So even though you own it, you don't own it. You have to sell what they send to you,
So you don't get to
right?
choose.
You
There's
don't
only
get to choose, and the pros and cons with that. The pros would be, yes, you always have, new inventory that's coming in. The cons could be based on where you live. That might not appeal to the demographic of the people that shops in your area where you live.
yeah. Okay. So you talked to some of the franchisees and then you built out your financial model.
Hmm.
And how did you figure out the right way for you to finance it and how much cash you were going to need, not just to build it out, but to recognize, hey, I'm not going to be making some compensation for a period of time?
Hmm. Um, that was a part of the financial analysis, right? Um, Not just the build out. You have to know the amount of cash that you would need. Um, what's the potential rent it's going to look like that you have to pay for the location that you get. You also have to hire people and train them, so their salaries you have to factor in, as well as you have to have like an operating budget. That's for your light, your you know, pick up your
Wi-Fi.
garbage, yeah, everything, and as well as merchandise. So um, having that framework up front and looking at that, what that looks like over 2 or 3 years, it kind of really helps you to see and to understand or to have a better gauge on where do you need to start, right? And to have like that starting number, that's going to help to set you up for success down the road. So the initial look at it is, I wouldn't just look at 1 year or 2 years. I would say to anyone, look at the like 3 years or 4 years if you have to, because it's a true statement when they say it takes about 5 years to really start making a lot of money, or a lot of the money that I'm making now goes right back in the business. But that's a process, and that was expected, and that's how you build a business. Nothing is going to happen. The success is not just going to happen in a year and then you wipe your hands. It's constant work. It's constant building your brand. It's constantly making sure that even on social media, that you're there every day. You're showcasing your clothing. You're talking about your clothing. You're talking about your boutique. Um, there's going to pop-ups. We call them pop-ups. A lot of med spas and different places around that they host different events for women. You have to also make your name known and show up to promote your business, because um, I'm a small business owner, I consider myself. So you have to build your brand, and you cannot do it within the four walls only. You have to also go out in the community and also do some community outreaches. I've done things where I've partnered with different charities. There's a charity that's called NC Smile. They're like a mini Make-A-Wish Foundation that I sometimes partner with them, and when we have like a sale or something, a portion of the customers that come in that NC Smiles promote, we give back some of that to their charity. So it's a lot of it's constantly working to build your brand and to build your business. This isn't a one and done.
Yeah. I'm curious with your financial model. A lot of people don't start with one, but you sound like you had multiple years on yours.
Mhm.
How closely did it match? How close were you on what it was going to cost you to start up? How quickly did the revenue match? Like, tell us what you learned from going through that process.
I learned a lot. Initially, the revenue did match, but I would say maybe like 2 years in, um, it was offline a little, and that's some of the drawbacks. Wasn't as aligned because what happens is your business and your sales is as good as the amount of sales that you're making. And there are times of the year, proven times of the year, like now between January and March, it's boutiques we make about maybe 5-6% of our annual revenue. So there are going to be months
So,
where it's very slow, where you do not have a lot of sales, and the first and second year, third year we course corrected a little and still correcting, but it took us a while before we figured, hey, if people are not coming in, let's try to go places and to do different things to go out and to make your sales or to meet your goals so that you're able to meet your monthly obligations. So um, yes, I had it planned out, but a year and a half, 2 years in, it did not go as planned. So,
well, I've
like I
heard
said,
seasonality was one of those things. Was that even on your mind when you were interviewing these other franchisees? Was it even something you thought to ask about, or is it something you got into it and then all of a sudden you were like, oh no, my financial assumptions are based on this consistency that doesn't exist?
yeah, um, I didn't ask about it, and it wasn't something that other franchisees told me that was problematic for them. What I'm finding is that just based on your location, based on your clientele, everyone's results could look completely different. I know franchisees that they are set up right next to a university or close to a university, and most of the merchandise that they're having there is just completely young and youthful, so it's catering to just them. I have other franchisees where that's not the case, where their problem is generating like a foot traffic, enough people coming into their store to shop, and that's sometimes a location thing. So what Apricot Lane corporates have always emphasized is you have to really try to promote yourself in other ways. Social media being
Yeah.
the main way of connecting with your customers. And not that you're just trying to get likes, but it is also good to have as many followers as you can, because once they follow you, when something new comes in and you're putting it on social media, it then pops up on their phone. Other things that I've had to do is I've had to do text messaging or email marketing, to like my VIP customers. Sometimes my all my customers, we do like birthday things where at the end of every month I run a report to see how many birthdays I have for the next month, and try to send like a text message or an email with some birthday offer to get my clients to come in. So it's constant work.
So I'm curious because you talked about the impact of location on even the models that people run in the franchise. So when you were picking your location, what was your assumption about what was going to drive success in your store? And then what did you actually find out once you got in there?
Yeah. Um, so before we chose the location where I am, I hired a real estate firm to do research. That was a part of my financials as well, to hire this firm to look at the areas surrounding, to um, try to pinpoint what might be the best location in terms of um, where I could make my sales, or the profitability of the business. And they did that. I got detailed reports from different areas around the Charlotte area, as well as samplings of businesses that are in these different areas, and also get an idea of realistically what were their annual salaries like in the past 4 years or so before that, so you get an idea of
On the
what the potential.
demographics?
Yes,
It's very,
demographics, actual sales that each business did. So I knew if they did 500,000 for the year, I knew if they did 800,000. And then the real estate firm took it a step further and looked at businesses that were similar to mine. So give a more realistic um, give you a realistic pulse on what you could potentially earn
yeah.
for
Was
your
that
business.
a connection that Apricot Lane made for you, or was that a
That was a
relationship that you?
suggestion. Yeah, that was a suggestion that Apricot Lane Corporate made as a part of your business startup and doing your due diligence to make sure that the location that you're selecting will actually be a location that could be a very lucrative for your business.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how much did you have to pay them for this research? And, in hindsight, when you look at it, do you say great value, or do you say, nah, I might do it differently next time?
Um, So the location that I wanted was actually the location where they ended. But they did give me a lot more research in terms of what other businesses did that helped me to see what my potentials could look like. And I think it was money well spent.
Got it. So
Um,
it didn't change the location that you chose, but it gave you some conviction about where your gut was telling you was the right place to be.
yes,
Got
yes.
it. Got
hmm
it. And this was not a firm that was representing you in the real estate transaction. It was you were just paying them for the research piece, or was this like a combined service and they were also helping you take down the lease with whoever the landlord was?
Yes. So they took it right because they're
Okay.
a real estate firm. They also took it to the next level where they also help with the landlord lease uh, conversation to get a letter of intent out for them to say, hey, okay, we will rent this place to her. And they don't just do that. They also look at your financials to make sure that, you are able to honor your rent. That was a part of it. I also had to hire an attorney just to make sure that when you're going through these lease agreements and all these letters of intent, there's a lot of legal jargon that's in it that um, that's not my area of expertise. I had to hire some experts to really help me with the lease process and to negotiate that lease process and also to explain to me some of those legal languages that they're putting in there, what that really means in layman's terms.
Was there anything in their reviews that you were able to negotiate that ended up being important to you once you understood it? Or was it just more they gave you an understanding of what your obligations and requirements and risks were going to be?
Yeah, the latter.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it. So again, more giving you conviction that you know what you're signing up for, but not necessarily changing a lot of the direction of where it was headed. So,
Yeah, even though I missed something because
oh no, what did you
yeah,
miss? Let's talk about that.
so there's a when you have your own business, you have to have insurance and all that stuff, liability, which I completely have. But as a part of the rent, I also have to pay for insurance, and I just completely miss it. So in addition to my rent, I have to pay like $1,500 a month for insurance. So the tenants in the shopping center pays for the insurance of the buildings, not the people you rent. Yeah, so and
So
yet
it's
what
the net.
happens, anything that happens within my four walls, it's my responsibility. So even though I'm paying the insurance for the center or my portion of it, I still have to carry insurance for myself. I just completely missed that. I'm like, I feel like I'm paying for insurance twice, but
Okay, I want to reinforce that because I think that's an important one because some leases are written where your lease rate includes everything, and
yes,
others are written where it's here's your base lease rate, and then you owe a percentage of the collective maintenance costs of this shopping center, for example, and that's
yes,
going to include
yes.
landscaping and insurance and all the things. So it sounds like
Yes, insurance, you have to pay extra for insurance. You have to pay extra to have your, if you have boxes delivered or garbage at night, you have to pay to have that removed. I have to also pay portion of like their water that,
yeah, probably
comes
parking
with,
lot maintenance, stuff like
yes,
that. Yep,
yes, yeah. That's separate from your lease. So it's a
yep.
line item.
It's just an extra cost. It's a little.
Yes.
Full hat
Yes,
on. So that was one surprise.
that
Um,
was.
any other surprises? Surprises are not uncommon, by the way, with new businesses. So I'm just curious, any other ones that really surprised you where you're like, oh, wish I would have known?
Um, no, they were pretty. I think I asked, along with my lawyer, we asked some really good questions. Again, maybe they said it and I just didn't hear it about the additional insurance and, the other line item things. So there's that. There was also, this was after the fact, where my boutique is, there are residences that lives on top of it. It's like a big, they call it a lifestyle center. So on top of these boutiques or
Commute?
businesses, yeah. And on three separate occasions, I've been there since 2022. There's been leaks in the uh,
Upstairs?
upstairs.
Yep.
Yeah. And they flooded my boutique. My boutique got flooded. Now, granted, we see it coming, so we're able to push things out of the way and call their maintenance and stuff. Um, but they're not responsible for what happens inside of your store. So all of this with my tiles being warped and all of that, they said that they weren't responsible for it. That's for me, even though it's caused by a
Really?
leak in it. Yes, that was just bizarre to me. So, you know, little things will come up. And, just have to know, um, how to deal with them.
Yeah.
So.
Were there any, when you look more broadly at the business, were there any other surprises that came about, things that created some risk for you that you hadn't envisioned or planned for?
The only other thing that comes to mind, right? You try to have a customer base where I came from financial services, and like I said, the type of job that I did with my agents and stuff, we dealt with customers, and customer service is number one for me. So that's been top of mind, even owning my own business. But there are going to be times, or they have been times, where customers are just not happy, right? No, we cannot take that back because, the tag isn't on it, right? It says so on the receipt. We told you that. And, customers will sometimes, want their own way. They could go and write you a bad review, but no fault of your own. You're just really enforcing, and every company has this. They have guidelines and things that they do and they don't do, but some people, they don't really subscribe to that. So surprises could be, and I had one, but both girls went and I wasn't there, but one of my sales reps were there, and they brought something back like well past the return date. And not only they bring it back, it was worn, it smelled, it had,
Yeah.
and so we told them no. She told them no, we're not getting it, and they went and they um, went on Google and they just gave us like a bad review, and so things like that happened. Um, you can address it one of two ways. The suggested way is to go on and reply back, say, hey, sorry you had a bad experience, come back in and let's see if we can talk about it, or offer something in it, or you can just let it be. Because sometimes even responding could then,
Yeah.
trigger another response. So
How do you
think,
curious how you deal with that? Because you're obviously not the only business owner who has dealt with someone's unhappy with your policies or the way that you've approached it. And so one of the ways that they feel like they can get their power back is to go online and
yeah,
tell the world about it. So
yeah.
what's your strategy for how to deal with that?
My
Is you go with,
strategy for dealing with that is absolutely 100% of the time when a customer is buying, and you're handing the receipt, just want to remind you that jewelry, their final sale, if you want to return this, you have X amount, like, so we
yeah,
verbally express the policies now so that someone is very transparent. Most people be like, oh, yeah, no,
yeah,
but you just don't know who will just have like a bad day and just want to do it. So we just make sure we're more vigilant with, I drill that into my
disclosure stuff.
staff. Yes. be it up front. And we do have the a sign up front. It's on the receipt, and we also verbally say it.
Yeah. Any of the risks that you thought you did a great job of planning for in the business? I mean, we talked about some of the surprises you weren't
Mhm.
expecting, like the leaky tubs from the people staying upstairs, but any examples of one where you were thinking, I knew that was a risk, I did this, and it ended up being a big win for us?
Nothing is coming top of mind, and I'm gonna be honest. A lot of heads up that I've gotten have actually been through Apricot Lane Corporate. We also have annual uh, business owner
Meeting.
convention.
Yeah.
So even interacting with other managers on a much other business owners just about from all over,
Yeah.
sharing of best practice and um, experiences. That's that helps me so much because
Yeah.
it helps you with what not to do, and also the approach that Apricot Lane suggests. Um, 9 times out of 10 will work. Um, the only thing I only have one thing that I've said that one thing that I banked on, but it did not work out, and that was hiring a um, a marketing firm when I initially started. I don't believe I got the traction, the movement, or the results that I expected. I felt that telling my own story and putting ourselves out there on Instagram or having something in my store where, hey, if you scan that QR code and you follow me online, I can give you an extra 10% to my customers and just doing different things. But the marketing firm, I just think that for small businesses, it's a miss. I think they work better with much larger corporations,
Yeah.
where the demographic or the results that they've had um, will work, but much on a much larger scale
So it
than
sounds like you were banking on a marketing firm that was going to
yes,
outsource the social media and they were going to
yes,
drive some people in the
yes,
doors. And what you found was not only did that not happen, but it took away maybe your superpower as a boutique in terms of that uniqueness of Georgina the fashionista that
yeah,
everyone's starting to connect to and understand this is
yeah,
what their business is about.
yeah.
So it sounds like your recommendation would be if you're a small business, own your own social media and let it be your brand, get it out there.
Yeah, it's your brand. You're building it. Because people will talk with other people, right? And who better can tell your story than you? Now, I can tell you, I'm like not that good on social media, but my daughter, who also manages a store, she does a lot better on social media, so that's her avenue. So we've been able to do that and be very successful. But a lot of the business owners, a lot of owners, Apricot Lane, they do have a presence on social media and it works very well. So I'm not against it. It does work. I'm not against it. It's just I don't like how I sound, but I do have my daughter doing it, and I do have a part of when I hire staff to come in, a part of their role is when it's a little slow, they do try-ons and they do, make
Yeah,
a
make it.
reel or something. Exactly. It's a part of what they do. So I do have always have some content that we can post.
Smart.
Hmm.
Smart to leverage your kids who have grown
Yes.
up in the social media culture, put them to work.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about working with your daughter. That's a story I hear every once in a while. You made a funny face. I want to hear. I want to hear the good and the bad of working with family.
Yeah. I mean, the good is we love each other and we work well to with each other until we don't, until the mom-daughter dynamic comes in.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does happen. So uh, what I try to do is I try to set meeting times and I say, okay, this we're going to be talking business and we talk, so I have to do it. I have to be very intentional with it. But if I just walk in and we're there and I'm like, hey, why don't you do such and such? Well, I did that already, so it turns into like a
Right.
mother-daughter little squabble as opposed to the business side of it. So I just try to keep it um, business, especially when we're at work and have the, meetings that addresses certain things, we have like monthly calendars, right? In terms of what promotions you're going to be offering on a monthly basis, who's responsible for it, what that promotion is going to look like, who do we need to notify. So we're all aligned, especially the staff, with what's happening month over month. So we try to do calendars like 2 months in advance. Um, we're trying three, but I just don't know. Sometimes that is just so far in advance. So the monthly calendars have worked really well
Well, it
with
sounds
us.
like what I'm hearing you say is structure is important because it allows you to be super clear about which hat you're wearing. I'm wearing my business
Yes,
owner hat right now versus my
yes,
mom hat, as
yes,
opposed to no boundaries, whether you're talking at home or you're talking at work.
yes.
Got it. Um, any positive things that have come out as a result of working with your daughter?
Oh, absolutely. People love that because the demographic that we serve in our business, and we're a mother-daughter team, and we both wear items from our boutique. So we promote that. So mom and daughter, they go out shopping. They both should be able to find something that's age appropriate for them when they come into our boutique, and that is such a beautiful experience. I remember when my girls were much smaller and we would go to the mall to shop. It was just such a pleasurable experience to shop with your daughter. So um, we really play that up at the boutique. And sometimes when I'm there by myself and other people would come in, they go, "Oh, where's your daughter? She's so helpful." And vice versa when I'm not there and she's there, "Where's your mom?" And so people are now knowing who we are. And we love that because your customers, our customers feel a connection to us, and they feel like they're family. They feel like our friends. Boutique shoppers are very sophisticated. These are people that love to come in and touch and feel, and they want your opinion. And in terms of, what to buy. And then we even take it a step further. We will style the whole outfit, right? You're going to a wedding. We'll get you the dress, and not just a dress, the earring or a pocketbook that goes with it. And so that when they walk out with a complete
Okay,
outfit. You don't have to
we
go
got to go
somewhere
figure it
else.
out.
Exactly. And sometimes I take it a step further. Like, this dress, even though it's a summer dress, in the fall, you can put a sweater over it and it's now a skirt, and, just kind of help them to see different ways that they can use the same item so they don't think it's a one and done. You buy this nice dress and it's just going to sit in the closet. They love it when you give them ideas of different ways that they can wear the item and what to do with it.
Yeah, my wife calls that price per use, and
Yes,
it's a very effective sales technique.
yes, it is.
Well, Georgina, I know we're running up on time here, so I'm curious, how has the business been doing? Has it met your expectations? It sounds like it's still a little bit of a work in progress. Anything you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, it is. It's still a work in progress. I am not, I would be lying if I say, I opened the business and, we're just so profitable and we're making like all this big money. It does take a lot of work. Not going to sugarcoat that. Sometimes I have to take myself off payroll because the sales just did not, come in the way that you anticipate that they would. I do believe that I saw that more so last year, and it's continuing this year. There's been a scale back with consumer spend.
Hmm.
So um, these things happen. So you just have to really, like I said, find different ways or creative ways of um, making the sales. And a big one, like I said, and I'm doing a lot more of that now to try to partner with different charities or different areas that are already doing something where
You're already getting in front of the people you want.
exactly you have to think outside of the box. But I am still building. I am still, not a multimillionaire. Um, I aspire to be one day. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you do have to put the time and effort and sweat equity in to for your business to be profitable. And that's any business that you're doing. It's just a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
and so you just have to stick with it.
Well, Georgina, I love your story. I especially love that when you think about retail with so much ability now to buy things online.
Yeah,
It's more and more when you're going out for a retail experience, it is about that way that makes you feel. So
yeah,
the way that you're exposing your brand and making it a mother-daughter thing and adding some of these value-added service, like hey, you're going to show up here and somebody who's your friend is actually going to tell you the truth about how you look in that dress and
yeah.
what it's
That's
going to go
true.
good with.
I know. And I would say that to ladies all the time. And it was like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I am sure. Because when you walk out here, somebody's going to say, where did you buy that dress? And if it looks horrible on you and you say Apricot Lane, no one is going to come and shop with me. So I need you to look good. So they know that I will. And sometimes, when they're not listening, I would say, hey, I don't think that complements your body type. Try this one. This has been, and they would listen. But no, I don't want them looking just horrible just to make a sale. That doesn't help me at all.
Ah,
This doesn't help me in any which way. So,
you want them to feel great every time they
yes, yes. And that's how they should feel.
yeah. Awesome. Well, Georgina, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Create the Life You Want podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to future episodes by clicking the subscribe button, you know where. If you're an aspiring business owner, you may also want to subscribe to the Create the Life You Want newsletter for more inspiration and tips delivered to your inbox every week. You can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my personal website, jeremyames.com. If you've already decided you want to start or buy a business, consider exploring your financing options by heading to our sponsor's website at www.guidantfinancial.com. That's GUIDANT financial.com. See you in the next episode.